ข้อที่จะได้กล่าวต่อไปนะครับคือ creating prosperity in Finland innovation and technology development as a driver of success Ladies and gentlemen it is now the time to give the floor to our honored keynote speaker Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Antti Vasara President and CEO VTT Technical Research Center of Finland
All right, can we start?
Location. It's compelled us to focus on reality, such as technologies that must work. It's made us invest in education, innovation, and reliable products that can compete in the world with both quality and price. But what do we do when the conditions change? We're in the middle of an unprecedented global transformation. It shakes old markets, thinking, structures, and operations. What new choices does one need to make to compete and be profitable in the new global marketplace? The present success is the result of clear and smart decisions. Our range of world-class competencies is wider than one would expect. Finnish technology brands and products are valued in demanding special fields. Created by Finnish professionals, global companies, small and medium-sized enterprises, startups, innovators, and creative challengers. But what drives us forward? Constant learning, development, and smart application. The combination of creativity, know-how, and courage. Sharing objectives, resources, and knowledge. Adaptability in a changing reality. And entrepreneurship as the soul and the driver. And taking controlled risks. Without taking risks, there's no success. Not even survival. Technology is a survival tool. Always has been. Now it's everywhere. Because it creates solutions for almost all areas of life. Culture and rising global standard of living have been driven by technology. The main products of the technology industry are work and prosperity. Every job in the Finnish technology industry creates at least 1.5 additional jobs. We have the power to decide the direction of our future, and it'll be created with technology. How to prosper in the middle of a great transformation? Simple. We continue to make vital and smart decisions, increase flexibility, drive education to support working life, innovate at all levels, renew operational models, develop new service concepts. Simply, we decide to create competitiveness. Because if we don't make the necessary decisions, someone else will make them for us. The final decision about the future is made by one single person, the customer. And the customer wants only 3 things: competitive quality, service, and price. We have a long tradition of thriving despite demanding circumstances. Or is it because of them? Let's rise to a new level by making decisions that take us forward. That's the main thing for us and Finland.
Hello, everyone. I'm Antti Vasara, and I'm CEO for Technical Research Center of Finland. We call ourselves VTT from the Finnish name of the word, of the name of the company. And I have the great privilege to be here at this distinguished event, celebrating both innovation and sustainability. And that's why I want to be talking about what we in Finland have been doing over the years around innovation and why is it so important for us. Then I want to a little bit explain what VTT is and how we contribute to this and go through some examples and also discuss that how we could work together between Thailand and Finland then to help make the world a better place. So first, Finland. We come from very, very far in the north. So usually when you go to Europe and watch the TV news where they show the weather forecast, they don't even have us on the map in most countries because we are so far up north. So this time I have selected at least a map to show for you where we are visible, so you can see us there. By land area, we are actually large. We are the 5th largest country in Western Europe, measured by land. And also, if you look at the weather, we present some pretty harsh extremes. It can be almost as hot as here in Bangkok, but then during the winter, it can, as a normal course of actions, it can be as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius. So we live in a large country with harsh weather, and there's only 5 million of us. So this has then meant that for centuries we have been forced to focus on figuring out how to survive the natural conditions, but also then that when we are so few, then figuring out how to make a living. And that has put an emphasis then into educating ourselves, building products, building things that we can export so that we can get money, both then to keep our country running, but then importing then some of those raw materials that we really don't have. And that has meant then that the whole culture is built around figuring out business and education. We are very proud in a sense then that when we are being measured on different quality of life indices, we have been extremely successful. So there is also sort of then something coming out of this. So when you look at quality of the environment and life expectancy and these kinds of things, we are always above the European OECD averages. So what brings this? Now I first tell you one big secret or one part of the secret sauce that we have. Finland is a land of scientists and engineers. We have really invested into education, building higher knowledge, educating our people, educating people to engineering professions, and then, of course, as a result of that, building then manufacturing industries, service industries, and these kinds of things. So on all measures, when you're looking at per capita, there are way more scientists and engineers than in any other country in the world. Of course, when then you look at then that, okay, what do we do with those engineers? We are also spending per capita more on research and development on relative terms than any other nation. So, and that's of course also sort of a pattern that small countries like Singapore and to some extent South Korea have always been up there and the other Nordic countries. And the point is being then that we can't rely on being otherwise big, we have to be smart. This has also then been visible then, this investment into education and R&D in the key indices when you look at innovation and these kinds of things. So we have more than the average European country. We have people working in knowledge-intensive businesses. High technology sector employs significantly more people in Finland than on the average in Europe. If you measure innovativeness by patent applications, we are almost twice the European average. And then also, as mentioned already, R&D expenditure is very high. So we are really putting our money where our mouth is. And that has led then into that in many of the rankings, when you look at them, we are at the top of the league in Europe. And we especially pride about then these things which take a long time to build, like cleanliness, quality, innovation. These are not things that you just decide one year and then boom, next year you're there. You have to really build innovation and build long-term plans for all of these kinds of things. Now, this might be a bit complex picture to show here, but what I want to tell with that is also then that when people are thinking about how to build GDP growth in a country, it's easy to start looking at what's the availability of labor, what's the labor cost, and capital cost, and these kinds of things. And all of those things, of course, contribute significantly then to GDP growth and have been behind the success of many countries. Finland is small, so in a sense then that we can't rely on having a lot of labor entering the market or any of those kinds of things. So proportionally, a huge part of our GDP growth has traditionally come from what is called multi-factor productivity, which is a term which is basically explaining all the other things that the simple factors can't explain, and mostly multi-factor productivity comes from innovation and bringing new products to market. So in that sense then that the investment into science and engineering that we have done is contributing heavily then to the success of the country. Also, another thing which is important to notice here is then that there is a clear correlation when countries spend government money in innovation work, and then how businesses and the private sector can then do R&D. So these things go pretty hand in hand, and that's why also then the Finnish government has already for decades been investing a lot into basically making sure that the enabling infrastructure is in place and also making the environment right for the companies to succeed, and also then matching some of the investments that the companies are making in R&D with real tangible either funding or work that the different institutions like VTT actually do, and universities. And this private-public collaboration that happens in Finland is really something that has been built over the decades, and is also sort of then have created sort of a seamless collaboration across the whole spectrum of innovation. So when you look at universities and sort of the basic research, how then we who are in the middle sort of doing applied research and finding funding to commercialize ideas, helping then bridge then the gap towards then the companies and the private sector. There's a lot of acronyms and these kinds of things here, kind of like partially, of course, showing then that we are very good at also inventing always new institutions and government bodies. So that's also one of our abilities. But the point being then that there's a mixture of both funding elements, funding the innovation work, executing, implementing institutions like the universities and VTT, and then when the companies have grown beyond R&D phase so that they need to start building up the export, also then funding mechanisms, how the companies get support, for example, with the working capital requirements that are needed when you're expanding your business dramatically. And although this is an example from the UK, but the numbers really also are valuable or are valid for any country, there is a really clear correlation between how companies that have invested into innovation are able to generate more revenue growth and business and also get their export businesses running. So with that, I hope that I've been at least a little bit able to sort of shed light on how in Finland we think about this whole scene and the importance. For us, this is absolutely the thing that makes and keeps us as a successful nation, and how a small country can, with its smartness and wit, then survive on a global marketplace. So, who is then VTT? We have certain ways, we have a very grand mission. We are fully owned by the Finnish government, and they want us to bring growth and well-being into Finland. So our sole task is to help Finland build scientific competence, able to commercialize that competence and help companies succeed through innovation. So with close to actually more than 2,000 people working in different fields of technology, our only aim is to make other companies successful. The relationship between universities and companies and us in a certain way in the middle is really, really important. So when we have been talking already today a lot about collaboration. This whole success that we can bring is built on tight collaboration between the university world, where both education and basic research is being conducted, and us and companies. And in certain ways, if you look at, for example, how universities work and companies work, there are very different clock cycles, first of all, that the timelines that universities need to have are almost by definition very long. They need to be looking at things that don't have immediate commercial value. They need to be looking at things that go far out. companies are all the time under huge profitability pressure, and they need to perform. So their time zones, time horizons are much shorter. So we can be, in a way, the transmission between slower moving and faster moving entities, ensuring then that we can bring those technologies that come from the universities that might be very high flying but not yet ready for mass production, mature them forward, do further research, then start building up how they are how to produce them, how to manufacture them, how to make the economics work, and make them ready for real product development then that the companies do. And that way sort of ensure then that the fantastic ideas don't stop at the idea level, but we can really make them into innovations which make economic sense, have a customer need that they solve, and are able to be distributed then to customers. As mentioned, our size is roughly 2,500, 2,600 people. We are more or less all of us in Finland, but we operate globally. Our tasks include also generating spin-off companies and these kinds of things, but I'll talk about more about those later. But it's also sort of then that we try to hold the highest scientific standards all the time present in VTT, and that's visible then in the sense then that we are the second most successful patenter in Finland. Number one is Nokia, and then second is us. And also then that when you look at the number of refereed scientific publications, we are in certain fields, we are best in the world in terms of citation indexes. So for example, in some of the forestry areas, we beat every other university also in the world. So in that sense also we are trying to achieve highest possible scientific standards. So if our mission is help Finland grow, bring well-being into Finland, how do we do that? So we are investing a lot into research with the notion then that the things that drive our scientific agenda come from I believe very topical themes. So how to make how to keep the world livable, so clean world, sustainable economy overall. Then also overall kind of like then figuring out technologies that can help create good life. And that is then driving then that the service portfolio that what we have been investing and kind of like guiding all the time our scientific work. So one key area which is also something that Finland is known for is then around knowledge intensive products and services, so the IT sector and these kinds of things. But also when you start looking at some of these things, they start overlapping a lot with, for example, biotechnology and then smart industry and energy systems. So in that sense then that what we are also finding more and more is then that the real innovations come when we can bring two different fields of technology together to collaborate. And for example, in our ICT sector, we are now investing a lot into health solutions, so how bringing life sciences and digital technologies together create new innovations. And there are plenty of other examples like that one as well. Our main mission is then that we are helping companies during that phase that when they need to be doing the critical innovations, early innovations and early research that helps them do the products. So in that sense then that the co-creation and co-innovation, that how we work then with companies then and transfer knowledge from us to our customers is important part. We don't compete with any of our customers, so that's also kind of like one of the areas that which makes us a very positive partner, because our intention is to try to teach others how to do it. So we have been successful if we are able to transfer knowledge to companies. How this then works is very important also in the sense that which many companies are not able to do is then that we do big investment into innovative research. So significant portion of the work that we do is funded either by government grants or European Union programs and these kinds of things, where we are working then to build certain competence, certain infrastructure. So first reach the high scientific level and then go into processes where we are helping then companies then to take that technology into use. And this is sort of the loop that goes all the time, because then from the customer work, then we can see then that what are the real life needs that need to be solved. And that's another thing that I hope that you will remember after this one, is then that the research that we are doing has to always aim at finding a solution to a real life problem. So that also makes us different from universities. So what has then been our impact when we have been doing this? And this is of course that which our owner is extremely interested in. So they've been investing, Finnish government has invested a lot in us, so they are all the time asking that kind of like that, what have you achieved? So in that sense then that we are of course measuring both how we are succeeding at the European level, but also then in terms of the quality of the partnerships that we have. And when you look at the work that we do, there is practically nothing that we do alone. Almost every single project that we do is done in collaboration with somebody. It can be another institution inside Finland, it can be a university, it can be in Europe, it can be in Asia, it can be for a customer who is on the other side of the planet. But the whole point being then that always we work in a partnership. Then, when we have been looking at our history, and this is of course not projecting that how it will be in the future, but if history is any measure of success for the future, then companies ought to really work with VTT. When looking at the major innovations where companies have been in Finland have been getting their new business, roughly 1/3 have involved work together with VTT. So in that sense that when we got those statistics, we felt very proud about that one, because it shows then that roughly 4% of the total R&D investment in Finland goes via VTT, and it has had an impact on 1/3 of the innovations in the market. And that also sort of shows then that there is a role for these types of institutions like VTT. So even if if you weren't interested in Finland, which is of course the most fascinating place on earth, still you can see then that this is a method and way of working that can be put into work anywhere else. Also similarly for SMEs, like His Excellency Prime Minister was talking about how to help them. We have seen then that the small companies which are not necessarily very keen to do R&D because they consider them to be too small, but when they make the jump, and we have really studied this, then those companies that have been working with technology and utilizing then real scientific results see a lot larger turnover growth and business growth and productivity growth than the companies that do not employ R&D. So these are even relative numbers here. Then one avenue is also then that sometimes we have brilliant innovations and we can't find any of the existing companies wanting to use them. Absolutely nobody gets interested. So what do we do then? We create ourselves a company. We incubate ventures, and we have already spun off actually more than 20 companies, and this is a relatively new exercise for us, but now we are on track then to start producing more and more spin-off companies and basically creating also a sort of a startup culture around VTT. Then I wanted to touch upon one specific topic, bioeconomy, which is also kind of like very, very topical when considering SCG and also Thailand.
Welcome to the land of bioeconomy, the future of sustainable economic growth and well-being, also called Finland. Finland has a long history of producing timber and other wood-based products, which is no surprise since over 70% of Finland is covered with forest. And today, our forest growth is much more than what is utilized. We're also known for our high level of education, science, and technology. Being a small country, we've always relied on thinking smart about resources. Today, Finland is at the forefront of bioeconomy, using renewable resources for producing materials, energy, services, and new products. The bioeconomy is sustainable, efficient, and innovative. For example, wood-based clothing materials such as viscose or iron cell fibers can be used instead of cotton. And composites made from cellulose fibers are a great replacement for plastics. With skills in biotechnology and refinery, we have brought about sustainable solutions ranging from cosmetics to heating and transport fuels. We can even make buildings store carbon instead of releasing it. And these are just a few examples of bioeconomy innovations created in Finland. Sharing and combining the knowledge of all these innovations has been the key to helping Finland become a superpower of the bioeconomy. We will deliver a sustainable future. Are you in need of something that can be solved by means of sustainable bioeconomy? Just call out for a Finn.
Finland also has a prime minister who wants to make the country better. So that has meant then that there are big plans that have been put in motion in Finland, how to start building up new industries and also renewing the old ones. Like in the video, it said that 70% of the country is covered by forest, and paper and pulp products for a long time used to be the main export. But now also kind of just looking at the audience here, you all have smartphones, you all have iPads. You don't have newspapers in your hand. So newsprint and those kinds of things have started to decrease. So in that sense, then also the government is challenging, the companies are challenging us to figure out new ways how to use the biomass. But then when you look at the basics in Finland, so you could say more hospitable climates, trees grow in roughly 30 years then into harvestable state. It can take up to 90 years in Finland, in the north, to get the forest grow that much. So in that sense then that we can't compete by having access to raw materials, although kind of like when you look at Finland, it's basically all forest and lakes. You don't see the people there. But when you look at then that the raw material isn't growing fast enough, but yet that's almost like the only thing that we have there apart from certain minerals, you have to be smart about how you use that. And that is then behind then the plans that are being made all the time and kind of like the strategies, and there's a national strategy for bioeconomy, which is kind of like cover page there, where the point is then that how do we find ways how we can extract higher value add from these types of products. And the SCG's example of cement is a great example of similar kinds of things. And That's then, of course, at the heart of what we are doing. And we have a very large knowledge base around industrial biotechnology and many of the ways how to utilize natural resources. And one of the key tasks that we have is then that we are building infrastructure and maintaining infrastructure that a single company couldn't utilize and build, that there would not be an economic way of doing that. And for example, in the bioeconomy area, that we have now started building up a major facility for doing research and also pilot manufacturing for some of the areas that are critical in generating the new types of products. So how do you process the biomass more efficiently, and how do you get more of the things that were used to call waste streams into actual production, energy usage and kind of like storing solar energy into biomass and related things is also one of the research areas that we're working on. Then different chemical processes or thermochemical conversion, so that how you can, for example, create waste energy from waste and also create biodiesel and these types of things. Plus then other sort of green chemistry type of work, then that where we can generate even higher value add chemicals from the biomass. And this is sort of also one of the types of things that the company like us can be doing, is then building this type of infrastructure and then inviting other companies there to work. So for example, there will be startups and larger companies co-located with us. So some of the research is being done by us, some of the research is being done by third-party companies with their own equipment utilizing what we have there. There's plenty of examples that what we have been doing, and I could talk for a very long time going through them, but just a couple of examples, so big and small. So waste to energy is, for example, a really important thing. There are all kinds of EU legislation now coming up then that how to do more and more avoid taking things into landfills. And for a long time, the idea was just then that you burn up so that it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. But then now we have been developing together with the energy companies then ways of doing that extremely efficiently, so that at the same time you generate both electricity and heat. And of course, in Thailand, you probably wonder that why would anybody want to generate heat? So kind of like that what's the use? But when you have minus 40 degrees, then you suddenly realize that heat is actually a good thing then to warm up the homes. This is also a fantastic example of then that how research is really, really long-term oriented. That if you look at some of the examples, and there's many press releases how we have been now working in this area and companies are building their plants. But that work started in the 1980s. So it wasn't just then that somebody came up with an idea last year and let's build a power plant and it's up and running. Those fine people on the left-hand side there in the picture, they were the pioneers that already in the 80s had an idea then that this is an area worth studying, when nobody was interested in that one. Everybody was just dumping stuff in the landfills and kind of like happy with that. So long-term nature is important, and that's why we need to have a vision where we need to be going and then really going for it. Then at the very other extreme are then startups that I mentioned. Paptic is one of the spin-offs that we have made. So in the process of our research, we have figured out then ways how you can actually make, how you can replace plastics with paper-based or wood fiber-based materials. So in that sense, this could be one of the ways that how the world can get rid of the plastic waste that is floating in the oceans and filling up the landfills. So instead of plastic bags, you would have actually paper bags that would, for the consumer's point of view, feel like plastic bags. And this is an example of then that where no big company got interested in this, so we created a spin-off. Similarly, food is also sort of a good example of then that where sort of areas that didn't really kind of like overlap with the food industry in the past. Now we are utilizing the same skills then, for example, to create functional foods and also then new types of more healthy food that can be then of course sold everywhere. So, before I finish, just a few thoughts then on this, that why is this relevant for Thailand? So many of the things that we have done are sort of universally applicable and things that can be easily done also elsewhere. And in that sense then that also what we have been doing sort of as a small nation, we don't have sort of a position in the global scene like the big countries, but we can export our smarts, and we can promote prosperity in the world and also world peace in a way by making sure then that the world develops in the right way. So we are working in many areas with companies outside of Finland, but also then doing, for example, sort of helping how to do these types of strategic roadmaps that like have been in Finland in place for years. So how you start planning and how do you build the public-private collaboration and then establish the enablers that how it can work. And some of that is, of course, extremely long-term oriented, like starting to fix educational system that started in Finland in the 60s and 70s. Areas are, of course, as wide as you can imagine. So we are working for basically all technology fields, and that's of course also critical for any nation. But as the last take-home message is, I hope that you are strong believers in the importance of research, development, and innovation work, because the prosperity of nations is built on innovation and research and education. And that I can talk even longer about that, so kind of like how all statistics show that. And that is something that all nations must remember. It is also important then to build the right enablers and collaborative environment that where you're not creating just silos or islands of work that are top-notch, but how you build the public-private partnership, how you build the enablers, and how you bring universities, institutes, companies together then to create the whole ecosystem. And also then that the innovation really increases the value of companies, so, and which is then the engine for growth. So I hope that I have been able to excite you about innovation and its importance, and with that one I thank you, and thank you for your attention, and thank SCG for inviting me here.
So thank you very much, Dr. Antti Vasara. Please remain on the stage for a while. Okay. President and CEO VTT Technical Research Center of Finland. Very interesting topic and also with very informative result for all of the CEO here in Thailand. So we hope that the great contribution to improve our innovation for sustainability. Okay. Soต่อไปนะครับผมขอเรียนเชิญคุณการตระกูลหุนกรรมการผู้จัดการใหญ่ SCG มอบของที่ระลึกให้กับดร. แอนตี้ครับขอเสียงปรบมือด้วยครับจะเป็นของที่ระลึกที่เกิดจากนวัตกรรมเช่นกันนะครับทำขึ้นจากปูนซีเมนต์พิเศษขอบคุณคุณการเป็นอย่างสูงนะครับ and thank you very much Dr. Antti Vasara นะครับ